The kingdom of Makis is a small kingdom located on the northeast. Although small, Makis had yet done history as one of the oldest kingdoms in the world, along with the four great kingdoms: the Igneous in the east, Galatia in the north, Terra in the south, and Ira in the west. And right now, Yinlin, the princess of Magius, is to be sent to one of the four great kingdoms, to Igneous in the east, also known as the Fire Kingdom. And Yin is to become a queen consort and wife of Bakugou, the young king of Igneous. Marriage for Yin is scared and something she looks forward at the moment. What do you think of him? As Yin held a small portrait of her husband-to-be, her lady-in-waiting and friend went around in circles, fixing her dress mercutiously. He looks strong. The lady-in-waiting answered, unsure. Yin let out a short laugh. I think he looks silly. Once Yin felt she was done being dressed, she moved away from the mirror and started walking to the window. Do you think he'll be glaring like this all the time? Yin showed the portrait to her. The lady-in-waiting almost laughed, but prevented out of respect for the royalty. Yin is unamused. Let's hope not, Your Royal Highness. Now, let us greet everyone. Yin's smile faded. She then put the portrait down and followed her lady-in-waiting outside. As soon as Yin reached the throne room, her parents are there, along with her older brother. Yin curtsied in front of them, and then broke into a smile when her mother stepped towards her and clasped her hands. Yin, my dearest daughter, her mother tearfully said, I hope God will guide and bless you in your new life as the Queen of Igneous. Your father and I pray for your health so that you could give birth to many, many heirs in the future. Yin thought that many heirs is too much, but she smiled and let her mother kiss her on the forehead. Good luck, your mother whispered. Thank you, mother. When she was approached by her father, she could see the king trying hard to compose himself. It's a pity the king of Igneous ever thought of you, daughter. He stopped, looked up and blinked away, the tears threatening to escape. Then he looked back at Yin again. I still remember when your sister got married. Our eldest daughter had married 5 years ago, dear. Her mother interjected. I know. Now I will no longer have any daughters here. The king nodded. Soon he became tearful as he looked at Yin. Be safe. Yin then was approached by her elder brother. Being the second oldest and the only boy among the children, he is to become the next king of Magnius. Yin is the youngest child, and as a girl, she is to be married like her sister. Yin is worried her brother will be lonely as soon as she leaves, so when he approached her, she hugged him. I will miss you, her brother whispered. I will miss you too. Yin smiled sadly. As they parted, Yin once again faced her family. Their faces showed a composition of happiness, longing, and nervousness. With one last curtsy, Yin was pulled outside the throne room. As she walked, she stopped herself from looking back because, if she did, her mind might change about leaving her home. Outside the palace, a carriage from Igneous awaits for her, with her trucks and everything. A coachman sat behind the horses, while 2 Igneous soldiers were waiting for her. Her lady-in-waiting was also standing beside the carriage. Yin fastly approached her. You've been a friend, and my only lady-in-waiting. Yin grabbed onto said lady's hand. I want you to know that there will be no difference between us even when I am queen of another kingdom, and I will remain loyal to you, your Royal Highness. Thank you for everything. And just like that, Yin was made to board the carriage. The sound of multiple horses' hooves hitting the pavement resultant as she slowly watched the palace get smaller and smaller in view, until the palace, the place she served as her home for the past 20 years, completely disappeared, along with Yin's identity as the Princess of Magnus, only to be replaced with Queen Consorts of Igneous. From northeast to the kingdom of Igneous is far east. It took 3 days to travel. For 3 days, Yin only had the forest and rivers as her view. She passed a small town once, was eager to stop by, but the coachman instead continued traveling. He quoted the king wouldn't be pleased if he didn't get Yin in 3 days' time. Yin also spent her night sleeping in the carriage. It wasn't the most comfortable since the ride was bumpy and noisy, but Yin did not complain, considering that the coachman had it worse outside in the cold than her, as well as 2 soldiers sitting in the back of the carriage. Yin had made sure to share her food with them every time she ate. Alas, it was afternoon when Yin's view was endless trees replaced by houses and streets. She spurred up and couldn't contain her excitement. Yin had been many houses and shops, first small portions, then they became bigger. She could feel the castle is near, and just as Yin looked ahead, the tall and golden palace loomed over her. Yin was in awe at the beauty of Igneous, so much that when the carriage stopped and a soldier opened the carriage door for her, Yin forgot to act like a lady for a while when she jumped off the carriage and looked around the place like a child. She would have meant on, if not for a rather formal man with green hair to approach her. "Your Royal Highness," he bowed. "My name is Izuku Midoriya, and I will now exhort you to His Majesty." "Oh, okay," Yin blushfully answered, embarrassed that he caught her gawking. They started walking, only for Yin to stop. Sir, may I excuse myself for a moment?" Yin asked Midoriya, to which the man showed a kind smile and let her. She then approached the carriage. "May I have my box?" she asked one of the servants, unloading her trunks. The servants bowed and reached inside the carriage, where a small box rested. The servant handed it to Yin. "Thank you." Yin went back to Midoriya. The man nodded and started leading Yin inside the palace. If the exterior is beautiful, then the interior is much more. Yin once again gawked at the interior gold designs and the portraits hanging on the wall. However, her sighting was cut short when they entered a room filled with people. All of them were nobles, as what Yin had observed. They were all gawking at Yin. Some were smiling, some were simply judging her. It made Yin uneasy. However, she kept a smile on her face as the people bowed to her when she passed them. When Yin is finally at the end of the crowd, Midoriya stopped by a large door. "His Majesty is waiting inside." Yin's heart started pounding in her chest, both from nervousness and excitement. Her hands clenched the box tightly as Midoriya moved the open door. Yin was once again blown away by the fancy and large throne room. This time fewer people were present, especially the more important people the king wanted by his side. And just ahead, sitting on the throne, is King Bakugou. "Her Royal Highness, Princess Yin Lin of Magius," Midoriya announced as soon as they stopped in front of the throne and the king. Once the green-haired man stepped aside, Yin had a clear view of the king, his blonde hair unruly and pointing all over the place, while his red piercing eyes stared Yin down. "He looks quite different from the portrait." Then he suddenly stood and took big steps to Yin. "Your Majesty." Although nervous, Yin managed to smile and give a very low curtsy. Her nervousness hadn't eased and even got more to her when the king continued to stare at her. But not a moment later, he suddenly spoke. "Hey, glitter fuck. She looks different from her portrait." Yin's eyes widened at the abrupt and straightforward comment. Before she could even speak, she heard a man's voice, and Yin looked behind to see a priestess talking. "Yes, perhaps. The painter could not fully brush Princess Yin's natural beauty. I agree. Suddenly, a muscular redhead said, You fuckers better be sure this is not an impostor. The king turned to them. Yin was still shocked. She only watched the evidence look off her face when the king turned towards her again. Yin prepared herself for what was about to come because she had gathered the king, and pretty unpredictable for her at this moment. What is your quirk? Now that question brought a proud smile to her face. Yin had always felt blessed with her quirk. Although it wasn't much, she's content with it. Excitedly, Yin opened the box in her hands and took out a diamond necklace. The king watched with a perplexed look. Yin then placed the necklace on both palms, and then her hands glowed and sparkled red, and all of a sudden, the necklace broke apart into pieces. Everyone in the room now had their necks scrunched forward to see. I can take anything apart in a single touch, Your Majesty, she answered, watching the pieces of the necklace fall and shatter on the ground, a few pieces left in her palm. Considerably. But I can also fix them. Suddenly, Yin's hands became golden, and the pieces from the ground glowed in gold too. They floated and merged with the pieces on Yin's palm until the necklace is completely whole again. It looked like the necklace wasn't damaged at all. If more, it looked like it was newly made and polished. Boring. Yin's smile faded for a moment before she focused herself to smile again. Surely the king hadn't warmed up to her yet. Yin chose to understand that. Your Majesty, she called. This precious necklace is a family heirloom of the house of Lin. My family and I would want to give it to you as a gift and gratitude for our marriage. Placing the necklace back in its box, Yin presented it to the king. She felt uneasy when he only stared at the box, but then smiled when he hesitantly grabbed it, only to be tossed aside to one of the servants. Yin pretended she didn't see what just happened. Yeah, Bakugou said. Apparently your kingdom was financially fucked, and that's why you're here. And then without warning, he turned and started walking back to his throne. Wedding's tonight. He spoke loudly and sat down. Brown face. Take her to her chambers. Yin felt that her meeting with the king wasn't the best, but all that thought was pushed in the back of her mind when she was led to her room. Apparently, it's not just the girl servant that went with her, but also the priest and another fancy-looking man with glasses. Yin was confused at first, but followed without a word. Yin didn't expect too much, but her chambers is far larger than what she had imagined. It's not even chambers. It's a suite. She had 3 rooms for herself, the bedroom, drawing room to receive guests, and a spare room for her bath. Yin was wandering around when she reached her bedroom. The priest spoke. Your Royal Highness, he coughed, this is your personal servant, Uchaka Uraka. Until you choose your own lady-in-waiting, she will be attending to you. The servant curtsied, and Yin sent a grateful smile to her. One more thing, Your Royal Highness, the priest added, motioning the man with glasses to step forward. This is most needed. I forgot about this part. Yin felt that whatever he meant doesn't sound good. Physician Ida here will be checking if you are still a pure woman. A what? A virgin, Your Highness. She gulped. Is that really necessary? Oh, yay. The priest nodded frantically. We ought to make sure His Highness will be given a pure, untouched wife. But he's a man. This time Ida spoke. Fret not, Your Highness. My family and I go way back with the royal family. It has been our family oath to serve the royal in a very careful and respective nature. Yin still seemed hesitant. She looked to Uraka, the servant, who could only smile sadly. Physician Ida is a gentleman, the priest spoke. Then he narrowed his eyes at Yin. Unless you have something to hide, Your Royal Highness. Yin was quick to move. It was most uncomfortable moment in her life, and she did not dare to share the details of how it went down. But when the physician was done, Yin was quick to put her skirt down and sat swiftly. Your Royal Highness is very much reserved just for the king. The priest smiles in satisfaction. After that, both men left, and Yin is now left alone with Uraka. Now, Your Highness, let us prepare you for your wedding. Uraka was quick to prepare Yin's bath and undress her. The water was just the right amount of temperature, and Yin didn't even want to get out of the tub. But she has to, for she did not have more time to waste. When Uraka wrapped a robe around her, she saw servants walk into her suite. They carried robes and a very beautiful dress. Yin then learned it was her wedding dress. As always, the kingdom of Igneous did not disappoint. Uraka then helped her dry and fit her into the dress. The dress wasn't too tight nor too loose. It's just the right size for Yin's body, and she's once again amazed how they got her proportions right. How long have you been working here, Uraka? She asked the servant while she worked on Yin's hair. For about a year, Your Highness, Uraka answered. I see. Yin grunted while Uraka pulled a strand. The girl is now panicked. I'm so sorry, Your Highness. It's all right, Yin assured. I'd rather like it if our approach to each other is much more casual and friendly. Uraka seemed to stop, and she looked at Yin and smiled warmly. Then she went back to styling her hair. It didn't take long while Uraka walked in front of her. You are ready, Your Highness. Thank you. As soon as Yin turned to the mirror, she felt deemed in nervousness again. She also felt happy and excited at the same time, an odd mixture of feelings, if she must say. Yin breathed out. Do I look all right? Uraka blinked. Why, certainly, Your Highness. You look beautiful. Yin smiled nervously and looked down. When she felt hands clasping her own, she saw Uraka smiling. Yin is glad she learned to be friendly so fast. Best of luck, Your Highness, she said softly. I wish you glorious and happy wedding. Now, Yin felt a little confidence. Thank you. And indeed, Uraka was right. The wedding had turned out fine, glamorous, and Yin felt happy. Although Yin had only known the king wasn't fond of smiling, nor he glanced and remained quiet. The entire ceremony, except when he spoke his vows, he had to let his voice heard. It ended when the priest announced them as husband and wife, and then they put a ring on each other's fingers. Lastly, Bakugou quickly placed a kiss on her cheek and sealed their wedding. But the ceremony didn't end there, because what followed was a grand dinner and after party. A toast to Clean Yin. The sound of multiple glasses clanking reverberated through the entire room, although with it were salts of joy from the people present. Yin herself held a glass full of champagne. Her big smile lit the room while her laugh mixed with the noise. Then she turned to the king, now her husband, where he sat beside her, in a table just reserved for them. Said table is filled with many delicious food. The king watched the people with a bored expression, his elbow on the table while he placed his chin on his palm. I very much enjoyed tonight's events, Your Majesty. Bakugou raised a brow, didn't even move his head, only shifted his eyes aside to look at Yin. Damn right you did, he spoke, then glanced at the people. Like all those extras. All of you seem to be really happy with this wedding. Yin frowned, but again she chose not to mind much. Look at Glitterfuck. Bakugou pointed at the priest. He's the most happy. Did you know it's him who chose you to marry me? Fucking Glitter said a dazzling version about you. Is that so? Yin was now amused. I have noticed that you don't call anyone by their names. You just did. Yes. I haven't learned that Glitterfuck is the priest Ayama Oyuguda until earlier. I really thought his name was Glitterfuck. Bakugou said nothing and only left out an amused scoff. Yin then noticed something. You're wearing it, she pointed. Bakugou looked down at the necklace Yin had given him earlier. Shitty Hair choked me as he forced it on my neck. Who's Shitty Hair? That red-haired fuck over there. His name's Kirishima. Yin looked over to see that Bakugou is pointing at the Lieutenant General Kirishima Eiichiro. Yin had made sure to learn his name earlier as well. Yin turned back to Bakugou to strike another conversation again, only to find him standing up. I'm gonna go over to them, he said, gesturing to Kirishima and a couple men. He grabbed his drink and left. Yin watched as Kirishima screamed in delight when Bakugou showed himself. They then offered him much more drink. She decided to also wander around, as everyone seemed to be doing that. Your Majesty. Yin almost forgot she was no longer Royal Highness, but now Her Majesty. Quickly she whipped her head and came face to face with a woman who fawn-colored hair. I am Lady Kemi Otsubirishi. Lady Kemi curtsied. I am one of the ladies reserved to be your lady-in-waiting. Oh. Yin smiled. It's nice to meet you, Lady Kemi. I must apologize, but I haven't been able to choose a lady-in-waiting yet. That is quite all right, Your Majesty. You can take all the time you want. Thank you. Lady Kemi then looked around the room with a smile. Yin stared at her face, wondering what conversation to strike. But Kemi beat it to her. You're quite blessed, Your Majesty. I am also aware, however, I will make sure that I will make such good use of this blessing God has given me and do my very best for the good of this kingdom. Oh, no. Lady Kemi shook her head. Yin was confused until she followed where Lady Kemi is looking. Surprisingly, Yin's eyes landed on her husband. I do not mean that. I meant you are blessed to be married with someone like him, a king, a strong and powerful man. Lady Kemi talked softly and rather dreamily, but then she snapped out of it by blinking her eyes and facing Yin with a sweet smile. The queen gave a small smile, then her eyes landed on one thing on Kemi's head. It's round and sort of bulky on some bits. Its color between brownish and yellow. That's a nice hat, Lady Kemi. Yin blurted out, meaning it as a compliment. However, Lady Kemi seemed to be confused. She uttered a small, "What?" then proceeded to pat her head, randomly hitting the hat, and suddenly Lady Kemi let out a laugh. Yin seemed it was rather forced. Oh, Your Majesty, Lady Kemi still smiled. This is not a hat, it's a wig. Yin suddenly had her mouth open and closed like a fish. She became dumbfounded and is now seriously feeling stupid. Oh, I'm really sorry, Yin apologized. It is all right, Your Majesty. Lady Kemi smiled. Before she could even utter a word, Yin suddenly felt herself being pulled. She glanced to see Lady Mina Ashido, Kirishima's wife, pulling her aside to her table. Your Majesty, we have something for you. Oh, for something for you to hear. Yin then was forced to sit down, Bakugou as well beside her. There was a slight tint of pink on his cheeks. Yin suspected that he had already drunk so much. Everyone, Kirishima shouted while hitting his glass with a fork. Everyone's attention is now on him, and Kirishima obviously looks drunk as he shoots. Stood at Bakugou's side. I have something to say, he announced, and waited for everyone to be quiet. As they did, Kirishima started speaking. This night is a holy matrimony for our king and queen. As he said this, he turned to both Yin and Bakugou. I grew up with a king and family being loyal to his family for centuries, and I intend to keep it that way. Our king is a great leader, but I must say, as someone who had grown up with him, he can be quite difficult to deal with, especially when he's glaring and threatening to kill you most of the time. Once Kirishima dared to laugh along with the few people who Yin thought is close to Bakugou. Even Mina laughed beside her, and Yin couldn't help but smile widely. Now that he's married again, even I couldn't believe it. Yin frowned and became confused. She thought of whatever Kirishima meant when Bakugou is married again. She turned to Bakugou, who didn't look at her. Instead, he was looking at Kirishima with a glare, but not saying that he meant because he had a smirk on his face. Yin still made sure to ask him about it later. Someone as powerful and great as King Bakugou deserves a beautiful and well-cultured wife. Kirishima looked at Yin. In turn, the queen smiled. Your Majesty, Queen Yin, may you make the king happy and give him many, many heirs. Again, Yin thought many heirs is an exaggeration, but she continued to listen to Kirishima. Everyone, right here before you is our great king and queen, whom I believe to be the rulers that will give prosperity, joy, peace, and pride to the kingdom of Igneous, the rulers that will once again bring us the golden age. On cue, everyone held their glasses. Long live the king, Kirishima shouted. Long live the king, the people followed. And then Yin saw Kirishima look at her and say, Long live the queen. The people all rose their glasses again and shouted after Yin. It only then dawned on her that right now she has transformed. Once a girl, now a woman. Once a princess of a small, old kingdom, now a queen of an empire. And slowly, Yin whispered to herself, Long live the queen.